Commander Jake Morrison stared at the star map glowing on his screen. He had been looking at these maps for 15 years, and the same thing always bothered him. Every single map of the galaxy just stopped at the edge of human space. No explanation. No warning signs. Just nothing. Jake ran his fingers through his dark hair and leaned back in his chair. The bridge of the UES horizon was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. Most of his crew was asleep. It was late in the ship's night cycle, but Jake could not sleep. The maps kept him awake. "Computer, show me sector map 447 Delta," he said. The holographic display changed. Blue dots marked human colonies. Green lines showed shipping routes. Red zones marked dangerous areas with pirates or radiation. But at the edge of the map, everything just ended. No more stars, no more systems, nothing. Jake knew this was wrong. Space did not just stop. There had to be more out there. "Sir." Lieutenant Amy Patterson walked onto the bridge. She was young, maybe 25, with short blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She was also the smartest person Jake had ever met. "Having trouble sleeping again?" "Look at this map, Amy," Jake said. "What do you see?" Amy studied the display for a moment. "I see our local sector, colony worlds, trade routes, patrol zones. What don't you see?" Amy frowned. "I don't understand. Look at the edges. Where does the map end?" "At the boundary of explored space," Amy said slowly. "But that's not right, is it? We have telescopes that can see billions of light years. We know there are stars out there, planets, but every official map acts like space just stops at our borders." Amy was quiet for a long moment. She was thinking, and Jake could almost see the gears turning in her head. "You're right," she said finally. "That is strange. Never really thought about it before." Jake had thought about it a lot in his 15 years as head of the Galactic Cartography Division. He had made maps of hundreds of star systems. He had charted new worlds and found lost colonies, but he had never been allowed to map anything beyond human space. "Computer, show me the oldest star maps in our database," Jake said. The display changed again. This time it showed maps from 50 years ago, when humans first started exploring beyond Earth's solar system. The maps were much smaller then, showing only a few dozen star systems. But they had the same strange quality. They just stopped at the edges. "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a section of the map. 50 years ago, this was the edge of human space. Now we control 50 times more territory, but the maps still act like there's nothing beyond our current borders." "Maybe it's classified," Amy suggested. "Military secrets or something." Jake shook his head. "I have clearance for everything. I've seen classified maps of secret military bases and experimental weapons, but I've never seen a map that shows what's beyond our space." A soft chime interrupted their conversation. The ship's computer was alerting them to something. "Proximity alarm," Amy said, checking her console. "Something's out there." Jake pulled up the sensor display. A small object was drifting about 10,000 kilometers off their starboard side. It was not moving under its own power. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Amy said. "It's about the size of a shuttle, but the whole composition is strange. The computer can't identify it." Jake felt his heart rate increase. In 15 years of space exploration, he had never encountered anything that the computer could not identify. Every ship, every probe, every piece of space junk was in their database. "Is it human?" he asked. "No, sir. It's definitely not human design." Jake stared at the sensor reading. The object appeared to be some kind of probe or small spacecraft. But it was not human. Then what was it? Humans were the only intelligent species they had ever encountered. At least, that's what everyone believed. "Bring it aboard," Jake ordered. "Use the cargo bay tractor beam." "Sir, should we contact Fleet Command first?" Amy asked. Jake thought about this. Protocol said they should report any unknown objects to headquarters. But Jake was tired of protocol. He was tired of questions without answers. He wanted to know what was out there beyond the edges of their maps. "We'll examine it first," he said. "If it's dangerous, we'll jettison it. If it's interesting, then we'll call command." 20 minutes later, Jake and Amy stood in the cargo bay, looking at the strangest object either of them had ever seen. The probe was about 3 meters long and covered in a smooth, dark material that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. "The symbols don't match any human language," Amy said, running her scanner over the probe. "But there's definitely technology inside. Some kind of computer system. Can you access it?" "Maybe. The power systems are almost dead, but there might be enough left to download the data." Jake nodded. "Do it." Amy worked for an hour, carefully connecting their equipment to the alien probe. Finally, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "I got something," she said. "It's fragmentary, but there's definitely data here. Maps. Think. And sir, these maps show star systems way beyond our space." Jake's hands were shaking as Amy transferred the data to the main display, which appeared on the screen made him step backward in shock. The map showed thousands of star systems, stretching far beyond human space. Hundreds of worlds were marked with symbols that looked like settlements or colonies. Trade routes connected distant sectors. It was a map of a vast civilization that existed right next to human space. "Wait, this can't be right," Jake whispered. But it was right. The probe's data showed star positions that matched their own astronomical observations perfectly. The alien map was accurate down to the smallest detail. "Look at this," Amy said, pointing to a section of the map. "These markings here, I think they show the age of the data. I'm reading this correctly. This map is over 200 years old. 200 years ago, humans had barely started exploring their own solar system. Yet someone had been mapping the galaxy long before humans ever left Earth." "Where did the probe come from?" Jake asked. Amy checked her readings. "Based on its trajectory and the radiation damage, I'd say it came from a system about 15 light years from here, just beyond the edge of our map space." Jake stared at the alien map for a long time. Everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. They were not alone. They had never been alone. And for some reason, no one had ever told them. "Kami, I want you to prepare the ship for a jump," he said. "A jump? Where?" Jake pointed to the probe's system of origin on the map. "There. I want to know where this came from. Sir, that's outside our patrol area. We'd need permission from Fleet Command." Jake thought about Admiral Lisa Grant, his commanding officer. She was a good person, but she followed rules. If he asked permission to investigate the probe's origin, she would order him to return to base immediately. The probe would disappear into some classified research facility, and Jake would never get answers. "We're not asking permission," Jake said. "Plot a course for that system. We're going to find out what's really out there." Amy looked nervous. "Sir, if we disobey orders, then we'll face the consequences," Jake said. "But Amy, don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to know why our maps stop at the edge of human space?" Amy looked at the alien map again. The evidence was right there in front of them. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy. Someone had been out there for centuries, watching and mapping, but they had never made contact. "Yes, sir," she said finally. "I want to know." 2 hours later, the UES Horizon jumped to hyperspace, heading for a system that did not exist on any human map. Jake Morrison had no idea that he was about to discover the most closely guarded secret in the galaxy. He had no idea that hundreds of alien species had been watching humanity for decades, terrified of what they might do if they ever learned the truth. All Jake knew was that he was finally going to get some answers. The EU's horizon dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder that ran through the entire ship. Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as the stars settled into their normal patterns around them. What he saw on the main screen made his breath catch. In his throat, a massive space station hung in orbit around a dying red star. The station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It was shaped like a giant ring, maybe 5 kilometers across, with strange spires jutting out from its surface. The metal looked old, worn by centuries of cosmic radiation. "My God," whispered Amy Patterson from her science station. "Jake, that thing is ancient. The metal composition shows signs of being in space for at least 300 years. Any signs of life?" Jake asked. Amy ran her scanners over the station. "No active power signatures. No movement, but the structure is intact. Atmosphere is still being held in some sections." Jake studied the alien structure. It was proof that intelligent life existed beyond human space. But where were they now? Why was their station abandoned? "Take us closer," he ordered. "I want to dock with that station." The ship's pilot, Lieutenant Ben Clark, was a nervous young man with red hair and freckles. "Sir, are you sure that's safe? We don't know what's over there. We didn't come all this way to turn back now," Jake said. "Find us a docking port." They approached the station. More details became visible. The hull was covered with symbols, similar to those on the probe they had found. Long windows ran around the outer ring, many of them dark, but some still glowed with a faint blue light. "There," Amy pointed to a section of the station that looks like a docking bay. "The design is different from ours, but I think we can make it work." Ben carefully maneuvered the horizon toward the alien docking port. The process took almost an hour. The alien technology was advanced, but it was also old. Systems that should have been automatic had to be operated manually. Finally, they felt the slight bump that meant they were connected. "Atmosphere check on the other side of the airlock," Jake ordered. Amy worked at her console. "Breathable air, little thin, but we can handle it with basic breathing gear. Temperature is cold, but manageable." Jake stood up from his command chair. "Amy, Ben, you're with me. Everyone else stays here and monitors the ship. If we're not back in 4 hours, leave immediately and report to Fleet Command." The 3 humans put on their spacesuits and checked their equipment. Jake carried a portable scanner and a translation device. Amy brought her scientific instruments. Ben had a sidearm, just in case. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The interior of the alien station was both beautiful and sad. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for beings larger than humans. Soft blue lights ran along the walls, providing just enough illumination to see. Everything was clean and well preserved, but empty. "It's like they just left yesterday," Ben said softly. They moved deeper into the station, following signs that Amy's translation software was slowly learning to read. Most of the stations seemed to be residential areas and laboratories. At the center, they found something that made Jake's heart race. It was a command center, filled with screens and control panels, and most importantly, it was still active. "The power core must still be running," Amy said, checking her readings. "This place has been on standby for decades, maybe centuries." Jake approached the main control console. The screens were covered with alien text and symbols, but there were also images, star maps, ship designs, and something that made his blood run cold. Pictures of Earth, pictures of human cities, pictures of human spaceships. "Amy, can you get the translation software working on this?" "Okay." Amy plugged her equipment into the alien system. It took several attempts, but finally the symbols on the screens began changing into English text. "Species designation, humans," Amy read aloud. Origin, third planet, Sol system. Technological development rate, extreme, threat level. She paused and looked at Jake with wide eyes. What does it say? Jake demanded. Threat level, maximum. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. The aliens had been watching humanity, studying them, okay? And they considered humans to be a maximum threat. Keep reading, he said. Amy scrolled through more of the files. This whole station belongs to something called the HFY. They were scouts for something called the Galactic Council. Their job was to monitor developing species and report back. What did they report about us? Amy's face grew pale as she read. Jake, this is bad. It's really bad. According to these files, most alien species develop very slowly. They take thousands of years to go from basic spaceflight to interstellar travel. But humans did it in less than a century. So we're fast learners. How is that a threat? It's not just that we learn fast, Amy continued. It's how we learn. Most species develop technology for peaceful purposes. Better medicine, cleaner energy, faster communication. But humans, we develop everything as potential weapons. Ben leaned over Amy's shoulder to read the screen. They have files going back to when we invented radio. They've been watching us for over a century. Jake looked at more of the screens. The aliens had detailed records of human history. World War I, World War II, the nuclear weapons, the space race. Every major conflict and technological advance was carefully documented. Here's something about our expansion into space, Amy said. The HFY were amazed at how quickly we colonized other worlds. Most species take centuries to establish their first colony. We did it in decades. What happened to them? The K asked the HFY. Why is this station abandoned? Amy found another section of files. It looks like they stopped reporting about 50 years ago. Their last transmission was, oh no. What? They sent a final report to the Galactic Council. It recommended something called Containment Protocol 7, complete isolation of the human species. No contact, no interference, just ... quarantine. Jake stared at the alien text scrolling across the screen. Everything was starting to make sense. It's the reason human maps stopped at their borders. It's the reason they had never encountered other intelligent life. It was not because there was nothing out there. It was because everyone else was hiding from them. There's more, Amy said. The final entry talks about a fleet being assembled, representatives from dozens of species, all coming to this system to establish a permanent watchpost. A watchpost for what? To watch us? To make sure we don't expand beyond our current territory. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Humanity had been caged like dangerous animals, and they did not even know it, while humans explored their small section of space, thinking they were alone. Hundreds of alien species were out there, keeping them contained. Is the fleet still here? Ben asked. Amy checked the station's sensors. What she found made all three humans freeze. Jake, she whispered, we're not alone in this system. The sensor display showed dozens of ships hanging in space near the edge of the star system. They were different sizes and designs, but they were all pointed toward the inner system, toward the space station, toward the human ship. How long have they been there? Jake asked. The station logs showed they've been maintaining this position for 47 years, Amy said. They're waiting. Waiting for what? Before Amy could answer, every screen in the command center suddenly changed. New text appeared, written in perfect English. Attention, human vessel. You have entered restricted space. You are ordered to power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with force. Jake looked at his companions. Ben's hand had moved to his sidearm. Amy was backing away from the control panels. Outside, through the station's windows, they could see lights moving in space. The alien fleet was coming toward them. What do we do? Ben asked. Jake thought quickly. They could try to run, but their single ship could not outrun an entire fleet. They could try to fight, but they would be destroyed in minutes. Or they could do something that no human had ever done before. They could talk to the aliens. Amy, can you send a message through this station's communication system? I think so. Jake, what are you going to say? Jake looked at the approaching ships on the screen. For decades, maybe centuries, these aliens had been afraid of humanity. They had watched from a distance, convinced that humans were too dangerous to contact. Maybe it was time to prove them wrong. Or maybe it was time to prove them right. I'm going to tell them that we want to talk, Jake said. And then we're going to find out why the entire galaxy is afraid of us. Jake Morrison stood at the alien communication console, his hands shaking slightly as he prepared to send humanity's first message to the galaxy. Through the station's windows, he could see the lights of the approaching alien fleet growing brighter. Dozens of ships, each one different from the others, all moving toward the abandoned Cathar station. Are you sure about this? Amy Patterson asked. Her voice was tight with fear. No, Jake admitted. But we don't have many choices. He activated the communication system. The alien technology was strange, but Amy had figured out the basic controls. Jake took a deep breath and spoke into the transmitter. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human vessel UES Horizon. We are not here to fight. We found one of your probes drifting in our space, and we followed it here to learn the truth. We want to talk. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the screens around them flickered, and a voice spoke in heavily accented English. Human vessel, you will remain where you are. A diplomatic craft is approaching the station, and any aggressive action will result in your immediate destruction. Ben Clark, who had been watching the sensor displays, looked up nervously. Jake, there are 43 ships out there. Some of them are huge. Our weapons wouldn't even scratch them. Then it's a good thing we're not planning to fight, Jake said. 20 minutes later, they heard sounds from the docking bay. The aliens were boarding the station. Jake, Amy, and Ben waited in the command center, trying to look calm and non-threatening. Jake had ordered Ben to leave his weapon on their ship. The first alien to enter the command center was unlike anything they had imagined. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, with gray skin that looked like polished stone. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. Its voice, when it spoke through a translation device, was deep and rumbling. I am Zeltar of the Vorthok Confederation. I command this watch fleet. You humans were never supposed to find this place. But we did find it, Jake said calmly. And now we know that we're not alone in the galaxy. The question is, what happens next? 2 more aliens entered the room. One was much smaller, with green skin and large eyes. The other looked almost like a giant insect, with multiple legs and wings that folded against its back. All 3 aliens kept their distance from the humans. You want to know what happens next? Zeltar said. We return you to your space, and you forget this ever happened. I don't think that's going to work, Jake said. We have the probe. We have the data from this station. We know that you've been watching us for over a century. Other humans will figure it out eventually. The green-skinned alien stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was higher and more musical than Zeltar's. I am Sethara of the Zendari Republic. Commander Morrison, do you understand why we have been watching your species? Because you think we're dangerous, Amy said. Sethara, S. Large eyes focused on her. Not think. No, your species has accomplished in 100 years what most civilizations take 10,000 years to achieve. You went from basic radio to interstellar travel in less than a century. This is unprecedented. We're fast learners, Jake said. How does that make us dangerous? The insect-like alien made a clicking sound that the translator turned into laughter. fast learners. Human, your species invented nuclear weapons within decades of splitting the atom. Q, militarized space travel before you had even left your home system. You turn every discovery into a potential weapon. Zeltar gestured to the screens around them. These records show your history. In the past century, your species has fought to global wars, developed weapons capable of destroying your entire planet, and then spread those weapons to the stars. Most species go centuries without a single armed conflict. Jake felt defensive, anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. We've also cured diseases, explored space, and created art and literature. We're not just warriors. No, agreed Cythera. You are also creators and dreamers. This is what makes you so terrifying. Most dangerous species are simple. They conquer or they destroy. But humans, humans are complex. You can create beauty and then destroy it in the same day. You can show incredible kindness and terrible cruelty within hours of each other. Amy stepped forward. You've been studying us for over a century. What have you learned about us? The three aliens exchanged looks. Finally, Zeltar spoke. We have learned that your species is completely unpredictable. When the Kethper first started watching you, they expected you to follow normal patterns of development. Slow, steady progress, careful expansion, peaceful contact with other species. Instead, the insect alien continued. You developed faster than any species in galactic history. You weaponized everything you touched. And worst of all, you showed no signs of slowing down. Cythera moved to one of the control panels and activated a display. They showed a star map of the galaxy, but this one was far more detailed than anything Jake had ever seen. Thousands of star systems were marked with different colors and symbols. This is the real galactic map, Cythera said. Over 3,000 intelligent species call this galaxy home. They are represented by the Galactic Council, which has maintained peace for over 50,000 years. Jake stared at the map in amazement. The galaxy was full of life. Entire civilizations existed just beyond the edges of human space. Why didn't you contact us? He asked. Because of this, Zeltar said, pointing to another section of the display. It showed simulation after simulation of what might happen if humans were introduced to galactic civilization. In every simulation, the results were catastrophic. Humans developed technology too quickly, disrupted trade networks, started conflicts between peaceful species, or simply grew too powerful too fast. These simulations showed that within 500 years of first contact, humans would either dominate the galaxy or destroy it. The insect alien explained. Perhaps both. Ben, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. It was the safest option for everyone, Zeltar said, including you. The galaxy knew about humanity's true nature. Many species would demand your immediate elimination. Elimination. Jake felt cold. Cythera nodded sadly. In the galaxy, with the power to destroy entire star systems, if they believed humans posed a threat to galactic civilization, they would not hesitate to act. Amy looked at the star map again. So, you've been protecting us by hiding us. In a way, yes, the quarantine has kept you safe from those who would see you as a threat. But it has also kept the galaxy safe from you. Jake thought about this for a long moment. Everything he had believed about humanity's place in the universe was wrong. They were not alone, exploring an empty galaxy. They were children, playing in a sandbox, while the adults watched nervously from outside. "What happens now?" he asked. The three aliens exchanged looks again. Zeltar spoke first. "That depends on you, Commander Morrison. We could return you to human space and reinforce the quarantine. Make sure no other human ships find their way here," or Jake asked. Cythera stepped forward. "Or we could do something that has never been attempted in galactic history. We could try to integrate a dangerous species into galactic civilization." "It would be risky," the insect alien added, "for everyone involved." Jake looked at Amy and Ben. Both of his companions were staring at him, waiting for his decision. He realized that the choice he made in the next few minutes would determine humanity's future. Stay in quarantine, safe but alone, never knowing the truth about the galaxy around them, or take the risk of joining a galactic community that feared them, but which might also need them. "I need to know more," Jake said finally, "about the galaxy, about the other species, about what integration would mean." Steltar's glowing eyes studied him carefully. "I would require you to come with us to see the galactic capital, to meet the council. And if we don't like what we see, then we return you to your people and the quarantine continues. But Commander Morrison, once you see the truth about the galaxy, there will be no going back. You will know what humanity has been missing." Jake looked out the window at the alien fleet. 43 ships from dozens of different species, all united by their fear of humanity. But also, he realized, all willing to take a chance on talking. Instead of fighting, maybe that said something hopeful about both humans and aliens. "All right," Jake said. "Take us to see your galaxy." The journey to the galactic capital took 3 days aboard Zeltar's massive ship. Jake Morrison and his team had never seen anything like it. The vessel was almost a small city, with corridors wide enough for vehicles and living quarters for hundreds of beings. The ship carried representatives from 12 different species, all part of the permanent watch fleet. Jake spent most of the journey in the observation deck, staring out at hyperspace. The swirling colors and patterns were beautiful, but his mind was focused on what waited for them at their destination. Patterson sat beside him, reading through data files that the aliens had given them access to. "Jake, you need to see this," Amy said, pointing to her tablet. "These files show the history of galactic civilization. Some of these species have been spacefaring for over 1 million years." Jake looked at the data. The oldest civilization in the galaxy was called the Eternal Ones. They had achieved interstellar travel when Earth was still covered in ice. Other species had histories spanning hundreds of thousands of years. "How do they live so long as civilizations?" Jake asked. "Stable," Amy explained. "Look at these development charts. Most species reach a certain level of technology and then stop growing. They find a balance and maintain it for millennia. No major wars, no rapid changes, just slow, steady progress." Ben Clark joined them on the observation deck. He had been exploring the ship and talking to the alien crew members through translation devices. "I met a being from something called the Harmony Collective," Ben said. "Tesis has not had a war in over 10,000 years. 10,000 years, Jake. They don't even understand the concept of conflict anymore." Jake tried to imagine a civilization without war. It seemed impossible. Human history was full of conflicts, from tribal disputes to world wars. The idea of 10,000 years of peace was amazing and terrifying at the same time. "What do they think of us?" Jake asked. Ben's expression grew serious. "They're scared. All of them. I talked to crew members from 6 different species, and they all said the same thing. Humans are the most dangerous species they've ever encountered." The conversation was interrupted by an announcement from the ship's communication system. They were approaching their destination. Jake, Amy, and Ben made their way to the bridge, where Zeltar was waiting for them. Through the main view screen, they could see something that defied imagination. The galactic capital was a space station the size of a small moon. It was shaped like a massive sphere, covered in lights and docking ports. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. The station rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity for its inhabitants. "Welcome to Central Station," Zeltar said, "home to the Galactic Council and representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy." "How many beings live there?" Amy asked in amazement. "Approximately 50 million, Zeltar replied. "It has been the center of galactic government for over 30,000 years." As their ship approached the station, Jake could see the incredible diversity of vessels in the area. Some ships were elegant and smooth, like works of art. Others were massive and industrial. A few looked like they had grown rather than been built. "Each species builds according to their nature," Zeltar explained, noticing Jake's interest. "Zendari creates ships that reflect their love of beauty. The Korth Empire builds for power and intimidation. The Harmony Collective grows their vessels from living materials." Their ship docked at a port designed for diplomatic vessels. As they prepared to disembark, Zeltar gave them a warning. "Remember, you are the first humans to ever set foot on Central Station. Many of the beings you will meet have never seen your species before. Some may react with fear." Jake, Amy, and Ben followed Zeltar through the docking tube and into the station. The first thing that hit them was the scale. The corridors were enormous, built to accommodate beings of all sizes. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadows above them. The second thing they noticed was the diversity of life. Creatures of every imaginable shape and size moved through the corridors. Some walked on two legs, like humans. Others floated through the air or moved on dozens of small legs. A few were so strange that Jake could not even tell which end was the front. "My God," whispered Amy. "How many different species are there?" "Over 3,000 intelligent species are represented here," Zeltar said. "Not all are present at once, but delegations from most major civilizations maintain offices on the station." As they walked, Jake noticed that other beings were staring at them. Some stopped walking entirely and watched the humans pass. A few moved away quickly, as if the humans carried some kind of disease. "They're afraid of us," Ben observed. "Wouldn't you be?" Zeltar asked. "You encountered a species known for rapid development and aggressive behavior." They traveled through the station for almost an hour before reaching their destination. The council chambers were located at the center of the station in a massive spherical room that could hold thousands of beings. Balconies and platforms at different levels allowed species of all sizes and types to participate in sessions. Currently, the chamber was mostly empty except for a small group of beings gathered on the main floor. As Jake and his team approached, he recognized Cythera among them. The green-skinned Zendari moved forward to greet them. "Welcome to Central Station, humans. I trust your journey was informative." "Overwhelming," Jake admitted. "I had no idea the galaxy was so ... full." Cythera gestured to the other beings in the chamber. "Allow me to introduce you to some key members of the council. This is High Commander Korath of the Korth Empire." The being that stepped forward was massive and covered in what looked like natural armor. Its voice was deep and threatening, even through the translator. "So, these are the humans," Korth rumbled. "They look smaller than I expected." "Size is not always important," said another voice. A floating, jellyfish-like creature drifted toward them. "I am Wisdom Keeper," Float thought, "of the Mind Collective. We have studied your species for many decades. What have you learned?" Amy asked. "That you are unique in galactic history," Float thought replied. Most species follow predictable patterns of development. You do not. This makes you either the galaxy's greatest opportunity or its greatest threat. Which do you think we are? Jake asked before Floatthought could answer. High Commander Koreth stepped forward. You are a threat that must be contained. Your species has shown complete disregard for stability and peace. You develop weapons faster than wisdom. That's not entirely fair, protested a new voice. A being that looked like a walking crystal approached them. I am Crystal Song of the Harmony Collective. While humans do develop technology rapidly, they also show remarkable creativity and adaptability. Jake looked around the chamber. These beings represented some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and they were arguing about humanity like parents discussing a dangerous child. What would it take for you to accept us into galactic civilization? Jake asked. The question created silence in the chamber. Finally, Cythera spoke. That is the question we have been debating for decades. Some believe it is impossible. Others think it might work under the right conditions. What conditions? Ben asked. High Commander Koreth stepped forward again. Complete surrender of your military capabilities. Acceptance of galactic oversight for all technological development. And restriction of human expansion to your current territory. Felt anger rising in his chest. You want us to give up our independence and become your prisoners? We want to prevent you from becoming a threat to 3,000 peaceful civilizations, Korath replied. But there is another option, Cythera said quietly, something that has never been tried before. The chamber grew quiet again. Jake could sense that they were approaching something important. What option? He asked. Crystal Song of the Harmony Collective moved closer. Integration through gradual introduction. Limited contact at first, with careful monitoring. Allow both humans and the galactic community to adapt to each other slowly. It would be risky, Floatthought added. If humans prove too disruptive, the experiment would have to end immediately. And if it fails? Amy asked. High Commander Koreth's answer was blunt. Then the galaxy would have to consider more permanent solutions to the human problem. Jake understood the threat. If humanity could not prove they could coexist peacefully with galactic civilization, they would face elimination. There's something else you should know, Cythera said. The quarantine around human space has not just been to keep you in, it has also been to keep others out. What do you mean? Jake asked. Beyond the edges of our galaxy, there are other threats, ancient enemies that the Galactic Council has been preparing to face for millennia. Your rapid technological development and creative thinking might be exactly what we need when that time comes. The revelation hit Jake like a physical blow. The galaxy was not just afraid of humanity. Okay, they might also need them. So you want us to be your weapons? Ben asked. We want you to be our partners, said Sarah corrected. But partners who understand the responsibility that comes with great power. Jake looked at his companions, then at the assembled aliens. The decision they made here would determine not just humanity's future, but possibly the fate of the entire galaxy. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Jake Morrison stood in the center of the council chambers, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy. The weight of his species' future pressed down on him like a physical force. Every word he spoke here could determine whether humanity joined galactic civilization or remained forever isolated. Cythera of the Zendari stepped forward, holding a glowing data tablet. Commander Morrison, we have prepared a proposal. It is unprecedented in galactic history, but these are unprecedented times. Jake nodded. We're listening. Terra Accords, Cythera announced. A trial period of 50 years, during which humanity would gradually integrate into galactic society under careful supervision. High Commander Koreth of the Korth Empire made a disapproving sound. A TCS is not enough time to determine if they can be trusted. It is enough time to see if they can learn to control their aggressive impulses, replied Crystal Song of the Harmony Collective. Cythera activated the data tablet, K, and a holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed the terms of the proposed agreement. Phase 1 would last 10 years, Cythera explained. Limited contact between human and alien scientists. Shared research projects in medicine and peaceful technology. No military cooperation. Amy Patterson studied the display. What about our expansion? Can we still colonize new worlds? Human? Expansion would be restricted to systems already marked for your species. Float Thought of the Mind Collective replied. Approximately 200 star systems have been designated as safe for human development. Ben Clark looked surprised. You've already picked out worlds for us. The galaxy has been preparing for this possibility for decades, Cythera admitted. We identified systems that would not conflict with existing civilizations. Jake examined the holographic map. The designated human systems formed a rough sphere around their current territory. It was much larger than their present holdings, but still a tiny fraction of the galaxy. What happens in Phase 2? Jake asked. Years 11 through 30. Cythera continued. If Phase 1 is successful, humans would be allowed limited participation in galactic trade networks. Cultural exchange programs would begin. Selected humans could visit alien worlds under supervision. In Phase 3, 31 through 50. Full integration into galactic society. Humans would have voting rights in the Galactic Council and could participate in all aspects of galactic civilization. High Commander Korath stepped forward aggressively. And if they prove too dangerous during any phase, the Accords can be terminated immediately. What would termination mean? Ben asked. Though Jake suspected, he already knew the answer. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Float Thought spoke. Return to complete quarantine. All contact would cease. The barriers around human space would be reinforced. And if we refuse the Accords entirely? Jake asked. Korath's answer was blunt. The quarantine continues indefinitely. Eventually, if your species continues to develop at its current rate, more extreme measures might become necessary. Jake understood the threat, accept the terms, or face eventual elimination. But there was something else bothering him. You mentioned external threats earlier. What did you mean? The alien representatives exchanged looks. Cythera seemed to make a decision. Show them, she said to Float Thought. The Mind Collective being activated, another display. This one showed the galaxy from a much wider perspective. Beyond the spiral arms, in the empty space between galaxies, red markers indicated something ominous. The Devourers, Float Thought explained. It's an ancient enemy that consumes entire civilizations. They destroyed the previous galactic civilization 3 million years ago. Our astronomers detect signs that they are returning. Amy gasped. How long do we have? Perhaps 1,000 years? Maybe less, Crystal Song replied. The Galactic Council has been preparing defenses for millennia, but our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. What do you mean? Jake asked. We are peaceful, Cythera explained. Most galactic species have not fought a war in thousands of years. We have forgotten how to be warriors. But humans, humans have never forgotten. The implication hit Jake like a lightning bolt. The galaxy did not just fear human aggression. They might need it. You want us to be your soldiers, Ben said. We want you to teach us how to fight, Korath corrected. Your species has experience with warfare that we lack. Your rapid technological development could give us weapons we never imagined. Jake looked at his companions. Amy was studying the star charts, her scientific mind already working on the problem. Ben looked troubled by the idea of teaching alien species how to make war. There's something you should know, Jake said. Humans don't just fight when we have to. We fight when we believe in something. If you want to help against these devourers, you need to trust us as equals, not keep us as contained weapons. The chamber erupted in discussion. Different species argued in their own languages, the translators struggling to keep up. Finally, Cythera called for order. Calm, Commander Morrison. What exactly are you proposing? Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. A partnership, he said. Not a trial period where you watch us like dangerous children. Real cooperation between equals. Humans contribute our military knowledge and rapid development capabilities. In return, you share your advanced technology and scientific knowledge. Impossible, Quorath declared. Your species is too unpredictable. Maybe. That's exactly what you need, Jake countered. You said it yourself. You've been peaceful for so long that you've forgotten how to fight, but we haven't. We know that sometimes peace has to be defended. Crystal Song moved closer. What guarantees can you offer that humans will not abuse this partnership? Jake thought carefully before answering. It's the same guarantee that you're asking us to trust. None. But look at what we're facing. These devourers are as dangerous as you say, then traditional galactic thinking isn't going to stop them. You need new ideas, new approaches, new ways of fighting. Amy stepped forward. There's something else to consider. In all the files we've seen about human development, has any other species ever chosen cooperation over conquest when given the opportunity? The aliens looked at each other. Float thought was the first to respond. Akina, most aggressive species seek to dominate others. But we're here, talking instead of fighting. Ben added. We could have tried to steal technology or take hostages. Instead, we want to negotiate. Cythera studied the humans for a long moment. You make interesting points, but the risk of doing nothing is greater. Jake interrupted. The Devourers return and the galaxy falls because you were too afraid to trust us. Then the quarantine won't matter. Everyone dies. The chamber fell silent again. Jake could see the alien representatives thinking, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. Finally, an unexpected voice spoke up. It was a small, furry creature that had been silent throughout the discussion. I am Elder Pip of the Tiny Folk, it squeaked. My species was among the first to encounter the Devourers 3 million years ago. Few of us survived. I vote to trust the humans. One by one, other species began to speak. The Harmony Collective voted for cooperation. Zizendari supported the partnership. Even some of the more conservative species agreed that desperate times call for new approaches. When the vote was complete, only High Commander Korath and 2 other military-focused species opposed the new agreement. Cythera smiled. The first time Jake had seen any alien show genuine happiness. Dang, we have an accord. Not the Terra Accords as originally planned, but something new. The Galactic Partnership Treaty. Jake felt relief wash over him. What happens now? Now you return to your people and explain what you have learned, Float Thought replied. The galaxy will make formal contact with humanity within 1 year. We have much work to do. Stay prepared to leave Central Station. Jake realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They were no longer seen as just a threat to be contained. They were partners in the defense of civilization itself. The journey back to human space was different from the trip out. Instead of fear and uncertainty, Jake felt hope. When they reached the edge of human territory, Zeltar's ship transmitted new star charts to the UES horizon. For the first time in human history, their maps showed what lay beyond their borders. The galaxy was vast and full of life, and humanity was about to join it. Jake looked at the new charts and smiled. Soon, galactic maps would no longer stop at human space. Instead, they would show humanity as part of something much larger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation was about to begin.